morning, everybody, and welcome to a brand new, fresh episode of Foul Territory alongside AJ Pierzynski and Erik Kratz. I'm Alanna Rizzo in for Scott Braun. Do not worry, guys. Scott Braun is back tomorrow. I am just pinch hitting for him. I think he might be at some sort of bodybuilding competition or something. I'm not sure what Scott's into at the moment. But don't forget to join the conversation, hashtag FT Live on Twitter. And, of course, you can get your comments in the chat. Check out our merch at foulterritoryshop.com. Good to be with you both. A lot to get to, gentlemen. So let's charge the mound.
He's charging the mound.
AJ, a couple of inches away from a World Series championship in 2025, the Toronto Blue Jays have awarded both John Schneider, their manager, and Ross Atkins, their GM, an extension. So it looks like they're going to be around Toronto for the foreseeable future. It looks like Atkins was extended until 2031, and John Schneider was extended until 2028. Good move here?
Absolutely. What's not to like about this move? I just wish, the only thing I don't like is that we were just there and they could have announced it when I was sitting next to John Schneider or Mark Shapiro. Either one, he could have told us that this was coming down the pipe. But good move for both these guys. Listen, John Schneider was probably on the hottest seat of all going into last year, and all he did was take that team to Game 7 and inches away from beating Alanna's Dodgers in the World Series. So I love this move. Ross Atkins made some moves. John Schneider made some moves. They got Vladdy extended. They went out and made some signings this offseason, Okamoto, and some other things. So I love this move. And the Blue Jays are doing exactly what you're supposed to do as an organization. When your team is good, you go out and you use the money that you're making off the team and you spend it and you reinvest it in the organization. And they're doing that to a T. So congratulations, Schneiders, and congratulations, Ross Atkins. You'll be there for a while, at least getting paid for a while.
Eric, it's crazy because as AJ was just saying, seems like, John Schneider was kind of on the hot seat. Is he going to make it through the rest of the season? What kind of moves is he making? What's going on here? It's amazing, EK, how winning changes everything.
Yes, it does. And they had been winning. And I would have said Ross Atkins was even on more of a hot seat than Schneiders was, because he went from building a winning team. I think he made a lot of good moves, to the fact that he didn't bring enough offense back. Didn't bring back a guy like Matt Chapman, who played platinum glove defense for him at third base. And it was pitching and defense. And then they just needed to add a bat, and they never did it. Last year, they added Anthony Santander. So essentially, the players are the ones that picked up Ross Atkins on this one, because Anthony Santander didn't even play. But the trade, to me, I think the trade for Gabriel Moreno, which looked terrible, where they traded Gabriel Moreno to the Diamondbacks, and then he ended up going to the World Series. Blue Jay fans were up in arms, and Ross Atkins stayed the path. He knew Dalton Varsho was going to give them Gold Glove defense in center field. He knew what type of team they wanted to play around, and they extended Alejandro Kirk. He was able to extend, obviously with ownership's approval, Vladimir Guerrero. They didn't go after Bo. Is that going to end up hurting him? Well, they fill in now with Andres Gimenez, another Gold Glover. He built a team that has his fingerprint on it. Only thing I don't like about this is Schneiders should get a longer extension. It's really not that long of an extension for a manager, but you know what? That's where we're at right now. Besides Counsell, very few. I guess Dave Roberts was long also, but besides those guys, not many guys are getting more than 2, maybe a third-year option type of contract.
Yeah, look at Kurt Suzuki. He got 1 year. That shows you the faith that Artie Moreno has in him. But the Angels are a disaster anyway. I would like to see, of course, Schneider be kind of tied to Atkins and extend him to 2031. It's funny, we were talking about both of those guys perhaps on the proverbial hot seat, but it was just a couple of years ago. I feel like you guys, AJ, we'll start with you, that we're constantly talking about the window closing with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette together, right? Well, obviously, Vladdy is there for the long haul, and Bo is now a member of the New York Mets. What do you think was the biggest change for the Blue Jays in terms of being able to get to where they were, when a couple of years ago it seemed like they were so in flux, and here we are thinking they could have easily won the World Series last season?
Just stability, good pitching, the right moves, all of the above. And listen, Bo's not there anymore. Fine. They have Jimenez, they have Okamoto, they have other things, Davis Schneider, Ernie Clement has stepped up for him, right? So, but I think for some reason when they signed Bo to that extension, it just changed everything in this organization. The fan base settled down, said, "Oh, at least we have Vlad forever." It gave the organization confidence, and I think it just took them to that next level. That the Vlad signing, along with the pitching, now Gausman, Bassett, Scherzer, Bieber, all the moves that they made along the way, all helped. Yesavage coming up and being a stud. I think, but the Vlad contract is what started it off and got this thing rolling in the right direction. And now, listen, they're expected to make the playoffs again like they did last year. I just think it was the Vlad extension that got all this rolling. And now Schneider's off the hot seat, Atkins off the hot seat, and they can just go do their job, which they've done fairly well because they have made the playoffs a lot lately.
I think it's one of those things, too, that people say, well, then everybody should extend the certain guy. Well, not that there was a cloud hanging over the fact that Vladdy would have been a free agent, but just the fact that it gives some type of stability to the fact that, maybe there was some pressure taken off of George Springer. We don't know health-wise, all this stuff. George Springer had an incredible year after having some down years and making that contract look like, whoa, this is legit, while also adding his leadership. Alejandro Kirk ended up getting extended. Does Alejandro say yay or nay to that contract extension without Vladdy there? We'll never know. Does Dylan Cease say, yes, I want to sign with Vladimir, where Vladimir Guerrero is going to be for a while? He's a transcendent type of star for the Blue Jays. Would he have been the same type of star for another team? I don't know. But I think there's rare times when a guy who was born in Canada because his dad was playing in Montreal, drafted by the Blue Jays, came up through the system, had some, flashes of really incredible superstar years, and then you extend him. I think the Blue Jays kind of took a little bit of a gamble, hoping that he was going to be the guy that they thought he was, and then you saw him really take off in the playoffs. You almost hope he has a better year this year than he did last year during the regular season, because he's like, whoa, I can really lock in during the playoffs. Can I do that for 162? If that's the case, you're talking about Vladdy as an MVP type of candidate for the next 4 or 5 years in a row. And that extension gives them a lot more stability, along with the rest of the lineup saying, hey, you know what? We're going to have this identity. And that identity was low strikeout, lots of contact, and see what happens. And everybody saw it.
I don't know if it was a recency bias, but last year's World Series was the best World Series I've ever seen. It's exactly what you wanted. Game 7 coming down to the last thing. AJ, are the Toronto Blue Jays the team to beat in the American League? Who is better than them right now on paper going into this season?
Honestly, I mean, the Mariners would make the case. The Yankees will make the case just because they had the same amount of wins last year. But I think the Blue Jays, if everything, again, this is what's funny about baseball. Everything lines up. Everyone stays healthy, right? It's like, yeah. It's always if everyone stays healthy. I mean, I think the Yankees, Blue Jays, and Mariners are probably the pride of the American League for me. And I think right now, because the Blue Jays are the way they played in the postseason, you'd have to put them number one.
I agree. They're not the only ones in terms of Ross Atkins and John Schneider, Erik, that got an extension recently. The Phillies have also extended Cristopher Sanchez. This is not his first extension either. They extended him back in 2022, but good on him. His new deal essentially has the Phillies picking up his old club options in 2029 and 2030. Todd Zalecki, who of course covers the Phillies, plus adding $30 million per season in 31 and 32, and a 33 club option worth $44.5 million. Interesting, EK, because the Phillies didn't have to do this at this time, but they did. What do you make of the move?
I mean, I think if both parties are amicable in this, like if Cristopher Sanchez says, yes, I would love that. That is $30 million is less than, a lot of pitchers that some people say today I'm better than, then he's saying, okay, I'll take a little bit off the table for the guarantee that I get this money. So I love it for Cristopher Sanchez. I love that he was able to, really his first full season of not being like in flux. Even in 24, there was talk, well, you don't know where he's going to fit in the rotation. He definitely has solidified his spot in the rotation, but he was coming off of 23 where he had some time where it was like rotation, AAA, bullpen. And so his career in the big leagues, while he has some years of service, is kind of young as a solidified guy on this rotation. And so for him, it's like, sure, that's a recency bias for him. He's thinking, I remember what it was like to get sent down in 2022 and 2023 and say, well, I don't think I deserved it. And now they're dangling $30 million out there for you per year. I think it's a great move for him. And I think it's also a good move for the Phillies because you see if he becomes that ace, that the money that he could command, you're going to have to, and you need an ace because Nola's getting older. Wheeler's contract's ending, and he said he's not playing after this contract. You don't know what Andrew Painter is going to be. Jesus Luzardo's already extended. So you have two really good lefties that have some stability because they know if they get hurt, they're still paid. But the Phillies also know they have two really good lefties in their rotation for a while.
AJ, resident GM on Foul Territory, Jim Bowden, said that this is setting a horrible precedent because the Phillies didn't need to do it at this time. He tweeted that the way that the Phillies reworked the contract of Sanchez sets a horrible precedent for teams. Great for Sanchez, to EK's point, generous of the Phillies, but now a player that has far outperformed his agreed upon contract might ask his club to do the same. SXM 89 top of the hour. He's promoting his show. But anyway, the point is, do you agree with Jim that this is a terrible precedent? I mean, it's obviously team friendly to a certain extent. However, it's good for the player to get that security, get the bag when you can. What do you make of it?
Why is this bad? This is bad for Jim Bowden because he was a former GM and he wants every team to get a cheap deal. But man, good for the Phillies for recognizing a guy that they want in their rotation for the next how many ever years, and they get it done. I don't understand how this is bad for anyone other than, I don't know who this is bad for, other than other GMs, but that's their own problem. If they got a guy that wants to do this on their organization, then go do this, and you have an owner that's willing to do this. I don't ever understood this. This guy just signed a deal for, that sets his family up for the rest of his life and his family's family up for the rest of their life. Why is this bad? This is good. This is what we want in baseball. We want guys that will stay with an organization for a long time. Guess what? The Phillies just guaranteed Cristopher Sanchez if he wants to be a Philadelphia Philly to what, 2032, 2033, I think it goes to. That's 7 more years that they have him locked in, and we don't know what's going to happen with the CBA. So Sanchez says, dang, you guys are offering me this much money, and the Phillies say, hey, we have this money. How is this bad? This isn't going to be every team. I mean, listen, if every team was going to do this, the Pirates, the Marlins, whoever, the Rockies, they don't do these things, but the Phillies did. So good for the Phillies. This is good for the game. This is good for Cristopher Sanchez, and this is good for the Philly fans.
I agree with you. You ended there, AJ, with this is good for the Phillies fans. Erik, you live in Philadelphia. You know what those fan base is like. I mean, what is it like? What does it say to these fans? Like, hey, we're willing to spend the money and keep arguably our ace in a Phillies uniform for the next 6-7 years.
It says that they're not just willing to do it for a little while. They've been willing to spend the money for a minute now. Ever since they brought in Harper, then Castellanos, then Schwarber, then Trey Turner. It was like almost Bo Bichette this offseason. The Phillies are in a spending mode. John Middleton is an owner who wants a ring, and he's willing to go out there and continue to spend. This signifies that. The fact that they went and extended Jesus Luzardo, not that long after Ranger Suarez, who was a successful pitcher for the Phillies, signed a contract with the Red Sox. They got Jesus Luzardo locked up. Now they have Cristopher Sanchez locked up. Philly fans are going to say, okay, we're going to still have pitching. Yeah, some of these stars are going to age. Trey Turner's going to age. Bryce Harper's going to age. They're the two with the longest contracts. So it shows Philly fans that they're not just going to take an abrupt 2013 hiatus from making the playoffs. We just can't, we have all these aging stars. We're not going to make any moves. And then they brought in some guys in the front office that, in my opinion, made some brutal moves that set the organization back. But I think John Middleton is saying this is what's going to be the future outlook for the Phillies, and we're going to continue to try to win by spending money, and Philly fans are going to continue to pack the seats.
Yeah, Gene Matos, Sanchez's agent, guys, credited Phillies owner John Middleton and president of baseball ops Dave Dombrowski for the reworked contract. For more on Sanchez and the Phillies, tune into the latest episode of The Phillies Show. Todd Zalecki, Jim Salisbury, and Ruben Amaro Jr. bring unfiltered insight and top-of-the-line Phil's analysis. In fact, we're going to talk to Amaro Jr. later, right here on Foul Territory. Subscribe on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts to the entire Foul Territory network. More Foul Territory in a moment.
Hey, it might be time to have a heart-to-heart with your phone and be like, I love you, but you cost too much.
Yeah, I'm not paying this much anymore. That's it. I mean, why would I go more than $15 a month? Mint Mobile can give that to me, and I get all the same coverage.
Exactly, and you don't have to deal with the crazy bogus fees or free perks that actually end up costing more. Mint Mobile plans for premium wireless start at just $15 a month. And all plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. If you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/TERRITORY. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month 5 GB plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
Didier Fuentes is as high as third on the team in innings pitched in 2026. I think so. This is one of those bold predictions that could be a good thing or it could be a very bad thing.
Agreed.
If it's because Didier's just so good, then, it could very easily because, he threw 130 innings and that ended up being like third on the team because a couple guys had 15-day ILs and everything still went relatively well. It could also be because everybody else got hurt, or at least most of everybody else got hurt. And Didier was just the first guy up. And I think both of those scenarios are so plausible that if you just combine them, I see it happening. And I mean, it's a bold prediction. So it's, I guess, in the spirit of it, it's something that's unexpected to happen. But if I told you right now that like Didier Fuentes got caught up in May because somebody went on the 15-day IL and just never went back down, the way that kid has looked in spring, I don't know that I would be like all that. It would definitely mean the season went in a different direction than I thought it would, but I don't know that that's off the table. So Didier Fuentes, third on the team in innings pitched. Remember last year, Bryce Elder led the team in innings pitched. Don't forget.
We're joined now by Will Carroll, the host of Injury Territory. If you have not subscribed to that podcast on the Foul Territory Network, please do. You are certainly missing out. Hate that we have to have you on for this, Will. It's good to be with you. But, man, Spencer Strider, it seems like he can't catch a break on the IL, at least to start the season, with an oblique strain. And we certainly know that those things are tricky. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, this is a simple oblique strain. We're not sure exactly how or when it happened, but for Strider and the Braves, it really doesn't matter. This is going to be about a month. He's going to have to not only let that heal. Those are very tricky in those first couple weeks. We've learned very quickly over the years that you don't want to have a quick setback too many times. Guys are trying to come back, trying to throw too early, trying to hit too early. It's any rotational activity, and that's pretty much the entire game of baseball. So for Strider, this is another one where some of the things that make him great might act against him. He is just so muscle bound. You worry a little bit about flexibility, and he's had problems. Obviously, that isn't why he had UCL surgery, but he has had a number of muscular injuries. And for guys of that physical type, we see that pretty regularly. But I think the Braves, they've certainly got some options. I heard them talking about Didier Fuentes. Not sure he's going to get the call up right at the start, but we'll see exactly where this goes. Strider will be back, I would say, probably mid-April.
Hitters, obviously, you hear with obliques. Pitchers, anytime there's an injury, it's really how long you're out. Yes, it has to heal, but how long do you think he's unable to actually throw? Because that's when I look at, even if a pitcher's down for 7 days, his ramp up before he even gets on the mound is 14 days after that. So if he's down for a month of not throwing, it's a long, long time, more than so with a hitter where it's like once he gets going, they can ramp it up, but they have to be 100%. So is there ability to throw during this time, or is it just like a hitter where you can't have that rotation?
You can't have the rotation. He'll do some things to try to keep the arm going, keep the chronic workload in there. But you're exactly right. He's going to have a ramp. That isn't as big a deal as it used to be. Teams aren't saying these guys have to be ready to go 7, they have to be ready to go 8. They're perfectly happy if they're going out there for 4, 5, because pretty much that's a normal start these days. But there is going to have to be some ramp up, and we're seeing more and more organizations that really understand these kind of chronic workloads, how to manage those, how to keep everything in balance, and hopefully see less arm injuries. We have seen, this is one thing I haven't seen talked about, is the spring numbers on Tommy John surgeries are significantly down, like cut in half, and nobody seems to have an answer why.
When did we start worrying about the Braves and what they're doing as an organization? Because Strider's been hurt. Obviously they've already lost Schwellenbach again. Smith-Schwarber's already down. It's just one after another. Ronaldo Lopez went down. Sale wasn't the same last year. When did we start worrying about the Braves and all their injuries that they've had as an organization? Because it's not only pitchers, it's also position players. They've had guys go down. Acuna, obviously, the freak knee things. Riley missed time. Albies missed time, right? I mean, it's just like one after another with this organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've got a good medical staff, but at some point, results count. Is it the players aren't set up right? With Acuna, you've got to think maybe that's a genetic thing, that he just had weak knees. And when he got into those positions, both of them went. You kind of think back to Manny Machado, who had knee problems early in his career on both sides, just as Acuna did, but has had a really great, possibly Hall of Fame career after that. You don't see any sort of pattern. It's not like we're seeing a whole bunch of hamstring injuries. There was one year where the Yankees, like 8 of their 15 top guys had hamstring injuries. It was because they were doing a completely new sprint series for their new strength coach. There's no known thing here, but you do have to look at the full system. Are these guys not in the kind of shape? Are they in the wrong shape to be playing baseball? And I know that sounds weird, but sports science is very, very specific. I know people inside the organization are asking that question right now.
You said about being muscle bound, and obviously, everyone talks about Strider and his tight pants, and then they show first shot is his quadzillas. Is there fact to what AJ and I have said for a long time, like you can't pull fat? Is there a percentage of body fat that players you feel like should have, or is it all just about flexibility and strength and how that combines?
A little of both. You don't have to be, a bodybuilder. You don't have to be buff and jacked to be a pitcher. But it does, it's not bad. Spencer Strider's certainly good. We're seeing more and more athletic pitchers now. You don't see the guys who look like, I'm going to date myself here, Rick Russell. You just don't get or David Wells. You don't get those guys out there that much anymore. But that said, it's not about a body type. It's not about a fat number. It's not about how big or strong you are. I can remember looking at pictures years ago. There was one at the All-Star game of, I think it was Pedro Martinez, Greg Maddux, Roger Clemens, and Randy Johnson. And these guys don't look like the same species, let alone the same occupation. So there's not one type. What it comes down to, and this is an absolute, is function. Can you do the things you have to do? And not only that, can you do them over and over and over and over without breaking? I always hear, pitching is not a natural motion. Overhead throwing is not a natural motion. It's exceptionally natural. People have been doing it for centuries, hunting, throwing rocks at a rabbit. But what's not natural is doing it from a mound at 100 miles an hour over and over. That's the problems that we have. Is this all comes down to very, very specific function.
Well, we have a question here in our chat from Sicilian87. He wants us to specifically ask you about Trey Yesavage's shoulder impingement. Yeah. So obviously slow playing Trey Yesavage coming up last year, meteorically on the scene, obviously a good future ahead of him, but also just the Jays' slew of pitching injuries. Let's start with Yesavage first.
Yeah, Yesavage is an interesting one because shoulder impingement tends to be something of a garbage diagnosis. You say it when there's nothing else to say. Something's inflamed, something got pinged. We don't know the exact specifics. But with Yesavage, it has been that long ago since he was in the draft. And I can remember teams talking about that strange motion. It was strange then when they didn't realize how effective it was. But he did have shoulder problems, both his I forget whether he came out as a junior. His last 2 years of college, he had some shoulder problems that held him back. That's why he dropped to the Jays in the draft. So he does have a history of this. He is going to be throwing later this week, so it's certainly not looking like a long-term problem. But these impingements, it's really more of a symptom rather than a diagnosis. They've got to figure out what's swelling, what's causing the problem, and get that out of it at the root rather than just having to treat the symptoms over and over. You can treat inflammation very easily, pop an Advil, get a dose pack, but it's not sustainable over the long term.
You talked about his awkward motion, questioning it. Do we look at an awkward motion that was extremely successful and say, oh man, maybe that's going to be an injury? Or do we look at the T-spine location and based on how far his head is, should the public know more about what teams are looking at so that you can say, okay, well, you know what, he throws exactly like somebody who throws with their head upright. The difference is he's just coming more at this angle.
Yeah, you can go to the Chad Bradford extreme where, Chad Bradford, if everybody remembers him, he wasn't a sidearm pitcher. He wasn't a submarine pitcher. He just bent at the waist so far that his knuckles were scraping the ground. And I think we should know more about biomechanics. And I'm sure AJ has watched his good friend Chuck Wolf on my last Injury Territory show. For Yesavage, it's an unusual motion. It's not bad. And do you change it at this point? He's done it for all these years. It's more difficult to change a pitcher at this stage than just figure out what's going wrong with it. So the fact that somebody like Yesavage is unusual to the point that he's such an outlier biomechanically, I don't think it's bad until he starts to break. And at that point, what's the least you can do to get him back to a healthy point? Alanna, you brought up the rest of the injuries over there. I think they're slow playing Bieber to get him back, watch his workload after him going into October last year. I'm more worried about Berrios because that stress reaction in his elbow is an unusual one, and it's not like he's going to stop throwing.
Hey, on the Blue Jays, Max Scherzer has talked to Ken Rosenthal about how he started playing the piano and it made his thumb better, right? He told me this, and I actually asked him about it on the air, and I forgot what he had told me, and then he told me he had to tell Ken first. So kudos to Max for talking to Ken about it, but I had forgotten. He had told me, and I had forgotten what he had told me. So is this a thing? Is this a good way for him to work? I mean, I know he said that now that the story came out, I remember him saying he did it kind of as a thing with his kids, and then he's like, wait, this made my hand feel better. And then he was able to pitch again. Is this a thing going forward? Teams can look at it as odd ways to rehab stuff?
I think so. I don't know if you guys are familiar with a company called Flex Pro Grip. They have a very interesting kind of finger strengthener. It looks like the glove that Thanos wore in Avengers, but it actually can measure the finger strength and train it. So this is similar. If teams want to get a piano rather than Flex Pro Grips, I'm not sure how the cost works out, but anything that strengthens, anything that gets him moving those fingers, it's an ingenious solution and one I don't think anybody recommended, but maybe we'll see more piano playing pitchers.
All right, I have one general injury question because it's the beginning of the year, because we're talking about injuries. No matter what the largest contract is in baseball, no contract will ever supersede the injury contracts. Do you feel like there's not enough, because if a manager doesn't win a World Series, he gets fired. Trainers don't keep their team healthy, they just come back the next year because it's freak injuries. Should there be, or will there be, in the next 10 years, an organization that says, okay, we're putting more on certain people so that we can devalue, or so we can take away all the extreme value lost in injuries?
Yes, there are teams that do that. We've seen more turnover in the sports science, sports performance, the medical departments. We've seen more directors of sports performance, directors of athletic training, people that oversee it. Yeah, I had an interview with Nick Kenny, who's now, I forget the title they gave him. He used to be the head athletic trainer. Now he kind of oversees all the operations on that side of things. Yeah, I do think they're holding people more accountable. It used to be kind of a job for life. It's certainly not that anymore. We're seeing more and more young people get into it. We're seeing people coming from other sports. There are teams that are bringing over people out of soccer, out of Olympic sports. So there are teams that are taking this more seriously. There are teams that are seeing better results. And there are teams that are just saying, part of the game. I can remember a general manager telling me that every dollar he spent on something that wasn't payroll was a dollar wasted. So I don't think teams yet see the sunk cost as a problem, because they're saying, all the contracts are guaranteed. Few of them are insured. They're willing to tolerate next man up, not realizing the next man up wasn't as good. So, yeah, I think more teams need to take this seriously. It's one of the things that I've been pounding the table for 20 years, Eric.
Well, I haven't been on with you yet, so I'm interested. Is that a bourbon collection behind you? Are those the things that are curing your injury ailments? What do we got going on behind you?
Yeah, that's my home bar, and it's not just bourbon, but there are some. But yeah, when you talk to people about doom and gloom all day, I'm a happy little grim reaper. So occasionally I have to have a little sip of something to get me through the day as I'm dealing with more Trey Yesavage injuries, more pitcher injuries. But yeah, everybody's got to have a hobby.
Listen, I get it. Your collection kind of rivals that of my husband's as well when it comes to bourbon. Before I let you go, the Marlins outfielder Kyle Stowers, he's going to start the season on the IL with a hamstring injury. And Will, you know better than most, hamstrings to me are like obliques. They're tricky. What more can you tell us about this particular injury and perhaps a timetable for him?
Yeah, it's going to be a couple weeks on this. He's been dealing with this off and on, and that's one of the reasons they're dealing with it. It's grade 1, so it's the lowest grade. It's right in the belly of the muscle. What they don't want this to become is a problem that recurs. That's the worry you have with hamstrings. Eric, back to your point, teams are not very serious about hamstrings and ACLs. There are hamstring and ACL prevention programs that, in studies over and over, soccer teams spend time on hamstrings and ACL prevention programs and have seen 50% reduction. Now, ACLs aren't a huge problem in baseball the way they are for the NFL or football in general, but hamstrings are, and there's not a lot of preventative work. For Stowers, this month, they're hoping will keep him going through the next 5-6 months of the season because the Marlins have certainly a long-term timeline with the players that they think will be there next time they're good.
Hey, well, before I let you go, you mentioned that teams aren't spending money and need to look into this. Do you think, and it's changed, and I get it's for the better, you have preventative programs, and you have masseuses, and you have acupuncturists, and you have chiropractors now, right? But and again, this is not to be the old man, get off my lawn, but I was told don't go in the training room. You don't go in the training room. You figure out how to play no matter what. And now guys are going in before they even get hurt to say, oh, I'm afraid my hamstrings are going to get hurt. And again, there's no right way or wrong way. This is the way it is, and teams think it's better. But do you think there should be more of an emphasis on, hey, guys, let's try not to get hurt and not, because it's, again, I don't want to judge anybody because everyone has a different pain tolerance, right? But I know this. One of the biggest sayings that we ever had was you can't make the club in the tub. right? Which meant you can't, if you go into the training room, and we had Schneider who didn't want you in the training room, one of the nicest guys in the world, but he would make it just awful to go in there because he'd be like, if the pain in the rehab is worse than you trying not to get hurt. So do you think that this is why so many guys, maybe hamstrings or obliques or whatever it is, and I'm a guy that did an oblique later in my career, and I was out 2 weeks and came back and played, right? But is there anything to that? And maybe I'm way off, and I'm fine being way off. It's just
no.
The mindset has changed.
The mindset has changed. We don't have Schneider anymore. One of the all-time greats. I actually did an article. This was back when I was with Sports Illustrated, showing that he was kind of like one of those subway punch cards. He had saved so much over a decade that he had paid for an entire season's payroll. So that guy, all-time great, should be in the Hall of Fame. One of the things, and you know this from being around him, is he was very focused on the preventative. He was very focused on making sure people were symmetrical, that they were in balance, that they were doing the kind of things. I think we need to have more of a focus on the preventative rather than the rehab, because rehab's hard. You're already hurt. The most predictive thing about injuries is having been injured. So if we could keep people from being injured, we talk about the 33% of pitchers that have had Tommy John surgery. We haven't figured out what the other 66% are doing right. So I think there's a lot more we could do. I think we could put a lot more manpower. I think teams could share. That's one of the things that they don't do. If somebody finds something that's a state secret. So I think there needs to be a lot more of a research focus and figuring out what those best practices are.
Well, good stuff. Always appreciate the insight, of course. Oh, go ahead.
Will, talk to my guy Chuck Wolf. He'll tell you his thoughts on Tommy John. I mean, you said
I just had him on the last show.
I know. He'll tell you what he thinks about it. I mean, that was the guy that I worked out with all off season, and he was great. He was movement based. He was strength movement based. I mean, he was one of the best. So
yeah, I'd encourage everybody to watch that show. It came out last Friday.
Okay.
All right, we'll check it out. Will Carroll, we appreciate it very much, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to Will's show. It's called Injury Territory. It's pretty new on the Foul Territory Network. His latest episodes, we just talked about it, breaks down Garrett Cole and Jose Barrios. Subscribe on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're going to be right back after this.
AJ, baseball season is finally here, and there's nothing like listening to the sweet sounds of the game while you're at home, enjoying some home cooking, whipping up a beautiful meal with HelloFresh, and there are many, many, many recipes to choose from.
I love those big portions, Scott. Over 100 mouth-watering recipes each week, including cuisines from around the world like some of my faves. Curried chicken and roasted sweet potato jumble, smoky chipotle beef burrito bowls, and sweet Thai chili salmon.
There's now 3 times the seafood for no upcharge. Impress guests or treat yourself with new grass-fed steak ribeyes.
So go to HelloFresh.com/FT10FM to get 10 free meals plus a free Zwilling knife, a $144.99 value on your third box. Offer valid while supplies last. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. Because when dinner tastes this good, nothing hits like home cooking.
He's gotten better every year. He's had some struggles, but has bounced back from those and gotten better. And then he's just, in terms of it, like I said, in terms of a kid, hard to find someone much better than he is in terms of just a good person that's a good teammate, that is coachable, wants to work his butt off and do the best for the organization and his teammates.
When looking at the numbers in the minor leagues from the majors, we saw quite a bit of a spike in the strikeout percentage while also lowering the walk percentage at the same time. It was actually a fantastic strikeout to walk ratio. How do you see the plan for him moving forward to try? I mean, I don't think it's fair to expect that from him moving forward, but what is the plan you would say for him to stay as consistent as possible for 2026?
Yeah, I mean, whenever you're talking about a high K rate and a low walk rate, that's pretty beneficial. I mean, limiting barrels is also really important. So I think just be able to get some swing and misses with his pitches throughout any count, getting ahead early and be able to put guys away early is something that we really believe in as an organization. I think will do him do him well. And I think a lot of that comes with just, as I said, the ability to maintain his velo and sit in the mid to upper 90s. And that's not only going to help his fastball, that's going to help his secondaries as well, whether it gives him more room for error, whether it just gives more power to his secondaries. I think that will be a difference maker in terms of his ability to compete at the highest levels, compete for a rotation spot, and be an impact arm for us in Boston.
The regular season opener is just days away. It's a night game. The New York Yankees, the San Francisco Giants. We don't have to have another weekend, gentlemen, without Major League Baseball that counts. A couple of names I wanted to talk to you about in terms of players being optioned to at least begin the regular season. First of all, any surprises that perhaps stick out to you? EK, we'll start with you. Dylan Cruz, Bryce Eldridge, Hyesung Kim, Christian Campbell of the Sox. Anybody kind of stick out to you?
I mean, I'm going to take the easiest one, Connor Griffin.
Yeah.
That's not fair. Like, to me, while he may not have had the spring training that they wanted him to have, that he wanted to have, you look into his numbers and you go, okay, like, what if he had hit 400? Would this have been different? Would this have been would they have sent him? And then the question would have been, well, who cares what he hit in spring training? So when you bring up stats, I just have a hard time saying, okay, like, he should have made the team or he shouldn't have made the team. To me, the question has to be, the Pirates clearly want to win. The Pirates went out and they added offense. They didn't add offense for like 5-6 year transition here. No, they added offense for this season and possibly next season. And so is Connor Griffin better than Nick Gonzalez, Triolo at short, like whatever that's going to be at shortstop? Is he one of the best 9 guys that they could put out there? And if he is, to me, I think he should have been on this roster. And I hope it's nothing else. I hope there's nothing else that, went into this decision. But to me, if they don't believe that, then who cares what he did in spring training? Tell him beforehand, hey, you know what? We don't see you as somebody that's ready to be in the big leagues.
Are you talking about just the manipulation of the contract in terms of that type of thing? Is that what you mean? Or are you talking about, it's a lot to put on a 19-year-old though, right? AJ, Eric, let me allow you to finish your thought there. What do you mean by that? You hope that's
I just mean, like, I hope there wasn't contract extension talks that weren't agreed upon. I hope there wasn't, some type of service manipulation so they can have him for another year. I hope there wasn't some of the old tricks that I think have kind of been mitigated against because of what's in the CBA. I think things, there's incentives to call up the best players. I just hope there's not something else, something like that going on that's like, oh man, like really? Like he's not, obviously I don't see him every day, but I also don't sit there and go, oh, the Pirates, they make so many good moves. We talked to Bubba Chandler. They called him up. He was a starter his entire career, and they call him up to throw out of the bullpen. And he kind of hinted like, oh, he's got to earn it. He was kind of told that he's got to earn it. What? No, he's a starter. He's going to be a starter for you for a long time. What are you doing? So I go into the situation going, is this everything? Are we getting all the information? Because I could care less about spring training stats.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. AJ, is it too much to ask of a 19-year-old kid to come up? You met him. You talked to him when you were at Pirates camp. Is the maturity there? What do you make of him starting the season, at least to begin with, in AAA?
I think the Pirates needed to put him as their shortstop and opening day shortstop. I've said that. I'll be on the record saying that. I think that this is not a Chris Bryant situation for me. This is I don't know why he's not their starting shortstop. If he's going to be their – listen, here's what's going to happen. We all know this. He's going to go down to AAA more than likely. It's going to be freezing. He's going to get off to a decent start. In a month, then they're going to call him up, and then they're going to say, it wasn't service time manipulation. It was he just needed to get better because he hit 180 in spring training. I don't care about the spring training stats. If the Pirates are really trying to make a run and trying to win their division and trying to make the playoffs like they say they are, for me, Connor Griffin should be on the team.
Okay, fair enough. Anybody else, guys, that kind of stands out to you? I'll read the list. I don't expect you to have it off the top of your head. Christian Campbell of the Red Sox. This is a kid, EK, that they gave a pretty decent extension to. It was like $40 million or something a couple of years ago, and he is starting the season in AAA. Jasson Dominguez, the Martian, Justinson Garcia, also of the Pirates. Anybody else stick out to you?
One thing more with Connor Griffin before you go there, because Tristan Campbell, he signed a 8-year, $60 million deal just in spring training last year. Right. And now he's changed positions and he's back in AAA. To me, with Connor Griffin too, he's going down to AAA to do what? Nothing against AAA pitchers. I played in AAA for a long time. The best pitching you're going to see is going to be in April, because there's guys that are like, oh, we don't know. We have a spot, 40-man, blah, blah, blah. You're going to see better pitching. But in general, you're going to see 90 to 94 AWRs, and you're just going to get guys throwing out of the bullpen that may throw 96 to 98. They don't know where it goes. You don't control the zone very well, and you build up numbers. Or if he doesn't do well, it doesn't look good for Connor Griffin. So yes, can he develop? Yes, you can learn. You can learn a lot of things if you have like veteran guys that are there that can help him make that transition. But it seems like I watch for a team that wants to win. But back to the list. I have to pull the list back up. But to me, it's Jasson Dominguez. Dominguez, if you go by numbers, you go, whoa, this guy had an incredible spring training. As a player, you're sitting there going, I had an incredible spring training. So did I really never have a shot? As soon as they brought Cody Bellinger back in, who was a late sign right before camp, like, is that when, my ticket to AAA was punched? Because Jasson Dominguez, his issues were he couldn't hit right-handed. Okay, he got quite a few at-bats against lefties. He did well, so the numbers are there. Like, what does that mean? The biggest thing is he's never really had setbacks in the sense that, he was the Martian. He got a record signing bonus. They thought he was going to be the next Mickey Mantle. Even our own pinstripe territory, Derek Lewandowski was like, oh my gosh, Jasson Dominguez is going to be unbelievable. Reality is you have to do it in the big leagues. And when you're in the bright stage of New York, you don't get 400 at-bats to figure it out. And we swing it back to Connor Griffin. The Pirates can give Connor Griffin 400 at-bats to figure it out. And that's where he should be figuring it out, in the big leagues.
For me, it's Dylan Cruz. Dylan Cruz was the second pick overall in the draft a couple years ago at LSU behind Paul Skeens. Mm-hmm. And he's never hit in the big leagues. And from what I've heard from people, he won't make adjustments. There's adjustments that need to be made. They brought in different hitting coaches. They brought in more of a driveline attitude to him. And he needs to they're talking about making him swing changes and this and that. And he hasn't done that. And he's the one. Christian Campbell, he was never making this team. So that's not a disappointment. Nope. He's got his money. That's why you sign these extensions. Because if it doesn't work out, you still have $60 million in the bank, right? But for me, it's Dylan Cruz. Dylan Cruz was supposed to be the guy who was the face of the Nats franchise going forward, and it hasn't worked out. It's become James Wood and C.J. Abrams. So for me, it's Dylan Cruz.
Yeah, I mean, real quick on Cruz, I think it's part of a generation of players that have said, you know what? The organizations go, yeah, AAA is not as good. We're going to call you up to the big leagues. And you're talking about like Hall of Famers that got called up to the big leagues without any minor league time. And, right around the league now, you're talking about Dylan Cruz, Wyatt Langford. Obviously, Paul Skeens is working out. He's going to be legit. But very rarely do you not need some seasoning in the minor leagues. So I'm kind of contradicting what I said about Connor Griffin when I say that. But there's history that it takes a little bit to. Not everybody has the same trajectory just because they were awesome in college.
I think it depends, too, on what your big league club is. There's certain guys that are going to toil away in the minor leagues because there's people blocking them in the big leagues. There's no reason Connor Griffin shouldn't be the starting shortstop for the Pittsburgh Pirates to start 2026. Coming up, much more on foul territory. Dan Szymborski of FanGraphs joining us, talking about his booms and busts of 2025. We'll be right back.
is there a case to, in certain situations, maybe depending on the pitcher, to just like putting Keith out there at third base in this specific scenario, and having McKinstry be the one that comes off the bench? And obviously there's more versatility with what you could do with him coming off the bench than Colt Keith when it comes to pinch hitting and defensive alignment and all that stuff, and just maybe letting Colt Keith kind of sink or swim a little bit. Is there any thought to doing that?
No, I actually almost want to retract that statement. I lean toward no. I think the days of Colt just getting at bats against lefties because he's a young hitter are over. I think this team is too good for that now. Colt is one of these guys who is, even though a lot of people, myself included, are projecting, this could be kind of his breakout year. He's one of a few guys, Winsel being another one, McKinstry in a way being another one, who played a lot last season, who might not be guaranteed that same amount of at-bats if McGonigal's on this roster. If some other guys are popping, there's just kind of less of the pie to go around a little bit, and if that means Colt Keith's not playing against lefties, that means he's not playing against lefties. Again, the best version of this guy is a well-rounded hitter who can hold his own against left-handers, but I think this team is too good to just give him kind of free at-bats for the sake of development at this point.
Dan Szymborski is the senior writer for FanGraphs. Excited to have him on the show, talking about the just released 2026 booms and busts. Let's talk about that. Dan, good to be with you. The pitchers drop tomorrow. So let's start with the booms. Who do you have?
Well, this is always a fun piece for me because I'm a math guy, so there's a lot of hedge betting at any given time. And I always like to write an article or two where I have a very real risk of looking incredibly stupid. Some of my picks last year were, let's just say, did not work out. At the top, I have Andrew Vaughn of the Milwaukee Brewers, which, as I said, is also kind of a cheat. But he's one of those players, I think, that the projection systems you see on FanGraphs or Baseball's Prospectus, I don't think they've really taken into consideration how much his approach changed when he went to Milwaukee last year from when he was in Chicago. It was a world of difference in his approach at the plate. I have Carter Jensen, I have Bryce Terang, I have Justin Crawford, Matt McLean. I always kind of go out there on a limb with a guy or two. I picked Kemp Alderman of the Miami Marlins, who probably has no chance of getting meaningful time in the majors, but he's interesting, and I like interesting.
The one name on the list was Jordan Lawler. Jordan Lawler being a boom, what does that mean when you're a guy that could have had a position if they didn't bring Ketel Marte back? Now you're possibly changing positions. Are you saying Jordan Lawler just is a good player, and if he gets a chance, he could boom?
I think he could be a really good player. He could be a starting outfielder. He's been pretty solid out there. It's got to be tough for him because at different points, he could have been the second baseman, the shortstop, or the third baseman for the Diamondbacks. None of that came to pass for obvious reasons. And I think, given Perdomo's emergence last year, he's almost forgotten in some regards. That people forget how good a prospect he was. He did have injury issues: his shoulder, his hamstring, his thumb. I think that there's a real good chance that he has a big season, and he's one of those guys who's pretty advanced, and he could be in the Rookie of the Year mix, depending on how things work out.
I mean, Bryce Terang on this list, he's pretty good already, isn't he? Is he supposed to get even better? I mean, that one seemed. You said Andrew Vaughn was a layup. I mean, Bryce Terang, he showed what he could do in the WBC. I feel like that was more of the layup for me than Andrew Vaughn.
Well, I think with Terang, one of the things we saw with him is that his exit velocities increased a lot over the course of the season. I think he could be an even better player because I think there's still some untapped full season home run power that we can see, because he hit a lot of home runs in the second half compared to the first half, which was consistent with the exit velocity data and the swing rate stuff we get from StatCast. I think he could be, a 25, 30 home run guy while still maintaining the things he already does well. And so for me, that does constitute a breakout. But again, I'm a writer. I like to cheat a little bit when I get a chance.
Okay. And then obviously Caglione. If Caglione could just make contact, I mean, he's going to hit 40 homers if he just makes enough contact and can get in the zone enough. But we saw it in the WBC, kind of like with Bryce Terang, right? When he makes contact, the ball goes really far and really hard, but then teams just don't throw him strikes, and he chase up and then he chases down. He's just ultra aggressive. If they can reel him in, I mean, that seems like one that could go off the charts.
Yeah, and he showed a lot of growth last spring training. The Royals advanced him through the minor leagues very quickly out of college. He's one of those guys, I think, that once he consolidates his gains, he will show improvement. I don't think he's ever going to be the most scientific hitter, but hit ball, go far is not the worst strategy in the world if you can pull it off.
You don't need to be scientific if you're 6'5", incredibly good looking, and 250 pounds. So what about the busts? Because I'm not even going to go down your list of busts. There's one on here. I'm going to save Alanna the time and energy from saying it. You have Freddie Freeman on the bust list, and you are going to need to explain yourself.
Well, the saying is, whatever can't go on forever won't. And the fact is, he is going to turn 37 before the season ends. And you did see a little bit of deterioration in some of his plate discipline stats. His contact rate took a big dip. And that's one thing you see historically, that older players, when you start seeing their contact rate change, even if they start from a high place or a low place, that tends to trumpet some trouble ahead. I don't think he's going to be terrible or anything, but I think that we've been spoiled by his almost lack of aging in the last 5 or 6 years. But I think there's a real chance that this is the year that we really start to see Freeman slide towards his Cooperstown speech.
How dare you? How dare you? He was dealing with an ankle injury. He had a left rib injury as well. He also said at spring training, when Foul Territory was there, when we talked to him, that he was absolutely irked that he did not finish the season with at least a 300 average. He wants to finish his career as a Dodger. I think that you just lit a fire under him, my friend. You better take him off this list.
Hey, if I light a fire under someone and they have a good season because they're mad at me, that's kind of a victory in the end.
What about Spencer Steer, though? What do you think about him that's going to be a bust? Coming off injury, what do you think more about that?
He's one of those guys who's kind of a tweener in that his offense isn't really that great for the positions he plays well, and he's not really a third baseman. He's not really an outfielder. The Reds seem to like him more than is justified, and I think they really should be looking to move on. He strikes me as more of a fourth outfielder role player type long term than someone who really should be starting. The Reds have a lot of offensive problems, I think, once they get past Ellie De La Cruz, and I'm not sure Steer really helps things the way they are now. I'm positive about Sal Stewart. He's someone who was really close to making my booms list, but I did have to edit it down to manageable size.
One of the other busts was Jacob Wilson, who would have been the Rookie of the Year had they not called up the giant that is Kurtz, and he ran away with the Rookie of the Year. But what about Jacob Wilson's game do you feel like could take a regression? Is it just the second half that he had last year?
That's a concern. But one of the things with the really good contact hitters, the ones who are, naturally gifted, is there's something I always call the contact rate death spiral. Because once you can show that you can hit almost anything, then that temptation to hit almost anything kind of becomes a problematic unless you work around it. I think long term he will be fine and he will work with that. But I think back on David Fletcher. Now he's a better player than David Fletcher. But as David Fletcher's contact rate went up, the pitches he went after got worse and worse, and his contact became weaker and weaker and less effectual. And that kind of spelled the end of David Fletcher. He went from being, having a really niche role as an underrated second baseman to basically being out of the majors in 2 years. Luis Arraez has kind of the same thing, where he's making great contact, but he's hitting worse and worse pitches, and his pitches, the balls in play are becoming less and less effectual at actually becoming hits. That's a risk for Wilson. I do think he'll overcome it, but I think that there'll be some growing pains, and we might have what we would call the sophomore slump year. So I think it just won't look as good as 2025 did.
Dan, if you had to put all of your eggs in one boom basket and one bust basket, where are your eggs going?
I think for boom, I'm going to go with Caglione. I don't know. I was all in on Caglione last year. This might just be me being annoyed that I was wrong, because I was pushing for the Royals to call him up quickly. I was on KC radio several times talking about that, and that did not work out last year. So there's a little bit of vengeance factor on the stats to think about. For the busts, it's not quite as sexy, but I think Andahar is the riskiest. There's a lot of air in their stats last year. He had an 830 something OPS, and it's really hard to look at the Statcast data, the hit data, the peripheral data, his batting average and balls in play, and seeing him able to maintain that. Now, I don't think the Padres had much of a choice given their payroll situation, but I think Andujar's going to be a big disappointment offensively this year.
You have two Royals on your boom list. Are they winning the Central? It's wide open.
I think the Tigers are still the favorite, but I would not be surprised at all by the Royals winning the division. I know I get accused of being too mean to the Royals, but this is a good team. They have a really stable pitching staff, even if it isn't the most exciting rotation, especially. But they have that deep rotation, and if they can get some offensive upside, because they already have Witt, they already have Garcia. If Caglione breaks out, if Carter Jensen has a big rookie year, all of a sudden, that's a pretty decent offensive team, and they were not a decent offensive team last year. So I think that team is upside. I would pick the Tigers right now, but it wouldn't take that many nasty surprises for the Tigers to put the Royals right there.
By the way, you have Jose Altuve on here. That dude hits 300 every year. Let's get off the old guys, okay? You have two Hall of Famers on this list for busts. I mean, if he doesn't hit 330 with 30, I mean, he hits 290 with 20. Is that a bust year?
I don't know if that would be a bust, but I think you look at second basemen historically, and they do, those middle infielder types, when they start to fade, they go. You look at the peripheral X-Slug data, the one I calculated had similar, that there was just a lot to not be a fan of in 2025. I don't have a problem with the old guys. I mean, I became an old guy. I'm going to be 50 in a couple years, so no ageism here.
All right, Dan, last one for me. Next year when you write your article, can you please put what the bust line is and what the boom – wait a minute, don't say bust line, sorry. And the boom line is? Like, you could come back at the end of the year and go, whoa, Jack Caglione, he had 30 homers, but he hit 213. Like, can you give us like a boom line and the other one line also, so I don't repeat the same thing I just said?
Yeah, I could probably – put that in stone so that I can't escape, which is always the risk for anyone who does projections.
Yes, perfect.
All right, Dan, thank you so much. Dan Szymborski, of course, senior writer for FanGraphs. We appreciate it. We'll be checking in with you to see how good you are at all of this. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, coming up after the break, we're talking a little bit of Hot Corner coming up.
Hey, have you hit the age where everything feels a little bit more difficult? The gym, yes, but everything, like energy crashes in the afternoon?
You might have been reading about low T and you see your doctor about it, and they want to give you basically shots every week for the rest of your life. Oh, cool. That sounds fun. And then you dig deeper and you realize what you're signing up for, and it's $3,000 a year to shut down your body's natural production forever. That is brutal.
Mars Men gives you the same benefits of optimized testosterone, energy, strength, focus, without shutting your body down. No synthetics, no needles, no dependencies. It's like hitting the reset button on your hormone factory instead of shutting it down.
For a limited time, our listeners get 50% off for life, plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. That's mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 free gifts when you check out. After you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you.
I'm Dodger season ticket holder, so I go to a lot of Dodger games, obviously surrounded by Dodger fans. I was in Tokyo for the games there. And so for me, it started in Tokyo and it ended in LA. What's actually funny enough is that if I knew better, it ended in Canada. I would have put like Maple Leafs on this piece. But this whole process happens weeks and weeks before the actual World Series ends. So that's what I was trying to focus on. Is there's obviously the back-to-back and sort of the linear lines that are sort of throughout Dodger Stadium. But yeah, I was just trying to grab these iconic pieces that would just capture you immediately. Go, yes, there's a Japanese flavor, there's an LA flavor of this World Series. That's what makes this series different. There's a back-to-back moment. So by just grabbing those little elements should be enough for you to connect. This is 2025's World Series. This is another year's. This is the 2025 World Series. Art is where our heart is. So art is drawing upon our moment of what we love and seeing something that captures a whole different side of our logic. So I think that's what baseball is to me. When I walk into a ballpark, it's not only the game that I'm anticipating the hot dog. I'm anticipating how the kids are going to be happy. I'm anticipating the smell of the grass. There's other nuances that we're anticipating, not only just watching the game. So that to me is the art of baseball, and that's where I'm trying to focus my artwork.
Look out, guys. You never know when you're going to get whacked in the face with a bat. Look at this. On deck circle near accident. This freaked me out when I saw this the first time. So Paul DeJong is swinging, right? He's basically timing the pitcher in the on deck circle. Jasson Dominguez comes out of the dugout and the Martian almost gets drilled by a bat. Scary, right?
Glad he had an uppercut. Glad he was working on getting that back hip into it, because had he gone straight level swing, Jasson Dominguez would have been cooked. He wanted to get on that first bus back. There's usually first buses back, or there's a ride. Oh, I gotta get back to Tampa kind of thing. He goes rolling out of there. That could have been more than just sent down.
That's one way to get on the early bus. I've been hit on a baseball field 5 times, 4 with the ball, 1 with the bat. 2 of the balls that hit me in the head. 1 was in the back, 1 was on the hand. And then I got hit with Carlos Gonzalez's bat on the left side. Have you guys, you're catchers, so you're constantly getting hit in the face and the mask and all the things, but have you almost been hit by how many times have you been hit in the head with a backswing?
No, it happened a lot. Not a lot, but it happened. It happened a few times a year.
Yeah.
Stuff happens. I've actually seen a guy get hit in the face. I actually did see a guy get hit in the face by a bat. I forget who it was, but I did see that happen, and it wasn't good. I want to say they broke their nose or busted their lip or something. So I actually have seen this happen. It was crazy. It was kind of the same thing. They weren't paying attention, and the guy swung and didn't realize there was someone behind him and hit him. It happens. It's not good. But yeah, this stuff happens. It's a scary world out there. Be careful. You got to as I tell my son, you got to have situational awareness on what's going down and make sure. I mean, every time there was anyone with a bat, I was always walking around like.
And that's why I'm glad that they did put the nets up. I know, EK, people had differing opinions of putting nets up along the baselines, but there's so many people that go to games that are not paying attention to what's happening on the field. And they have little kids down there. They're not paying attention. Or there's somebody that obviously does not have cat-like reflexes that can take a screaming line drive right to the noggin, and it could kill somebody. I'm glad that they have the nets. Have you seen anything like that on the field, Erik, where someone got hit with the backswing or whatever?
The video, when we talked about this, the video of Ryan Braun swinging on the top of the dugout, and he caught Gene Segura back when they were both playing together with the Brewers. Like, that one was, but I wasn't there live for it. So no, I've never seen anybody get hit like that. But fans, you talk about the nets. Oh man, I'll never forget one in Indianapolis. I was playing in AAA, and a mom got hit in the side of the head, and like immediately she projectile vomited, and she had her kids there. Like, it was just an awful scene that it still gives me chills to think about. But we also talk about all your injuries. AJ got hit 129 times, Alanna, and you're talking about the 4 times you got hit in the hand. He got hit 129 times.
That's a lot.
Baseball.
That's a lot. That's a lot. And I'm not trying to compare my injuries to AJ's by any stretch of the imagination, but I also was not suited up. And all 4 here's a fun fact for you, boys. All 4 times I got hit with the ball were all in the San Francisco visiting well. All 4 times. So that is a death trap. No, I was on the air. I mean, sometimes
they didn't like the Dodgers. The Dodgers. That rivalry.
But I was also with the Rockies too, so it was like an NL West thing as well. But yeah, that's crazy. Remember when my husband, got hit in the face with the ball, 93 miles an hour fastball? He was playing for the Diamondbacks, and a pitcher. It was like garbage time. Diamondbacks were up huge, and this kid comes in, has no idea where it's going. Hit him right here. Broke 3 of his teeth. He had to cut out a huge piece of his lip. That was a good time. Anyway, moving on. Same thing. Jeremy Meyer, our director, saying in here, our producer, same on the tee box. No drivers to the Chiclets. Watch out. Don't stand in people's backswing. All right. Ryan Divish, who covers the Mariners, a statement from Randy Arozarena. I understand that with opening day a few days away, I don't want it to be a distraction. Cal and I have talked, and I apologize for what I said after the game. Nothing in the WBC takes away from the fact that we are brothers and teammates. He's family, and we are both focused on helping the Mariners win the World Series. AJ, this comes off of the cuff of Randy Arozarena wanting to shake Cal Raleigh's hand, and he said, "No, nay unto thee." So they've squashed this.
He was told to say this. Let's be honest.
I'm sure
he didn't say this out of nowhere. He was told to say this because, again, like I said earlier, guess who they can trade? They can trade Randy Arozarena. Guess who they ain't trading? Cal Raleigh. Guess who they? I mean, let's be honest. This is it. Randy and Cal talked. They had already talked. I don't understand why this became such a big deal, because it only became a big deal because Randy said some things about Cal later on that he didn't need to say after the whole thing. And Cal told him not to do it. He told Naylor not to do it. Now, Naylor handled it better by making a joke out of it. Randy then proceeded to say some bad things about Cal. I mean, we all love Randy's personality. We all love the fun times he has on the field. But I don't care what happens. You don't cuss out a teammate after anything. I'm sorry. You take the teammate inside the locker room and you talk to him. When you get back to Mariners camp, you handle it internally. You don't cuss him out in front of the world. So I think that Randy was told, hey, we need to squash this, because even when he went back to Mariners camp, he kept this thing going. So it's over now. Hopefully we don't have to talk about it again, and the Mariners can just go try to get to the World Series for the first time in their existence.
It won't be a distraction. Stop. Like, they're going to play. Randy wants to play for his free agent year. Cal is going to do Cal things. It won't be a distraction.
Okay. This is scary. I didn't know about this. I don't think many people knew about this, guys, but MLB.com's Brian McTaggart, who covers the Houston Astros, wrote an article that said Carlos Correa and his son nearly drowned in a lake last summer. That's insane. He nearly drowned on a Minnesota lake last summer. His brush with death has brought him closer to his faith and has given him a new calling. I promise you, this is a quote, I promise you that if you save me from this one, I will serve you and I will serve you forever. So apparently he has started organizing AJ Bible study at his home last offseason. He's delivering a 30-minute sermon at a retirement home in December in front of 20 to 25 people. That'll do it. When you have a brush with death, especially when your child is involved, that's got to give you some perspective, no?
Yeah, 100%. I'm never going to knock anyone's faith or what they do, or good for you, Carlos Correa. I'm sure it was a scary incident. Didn't DJ Khaled, the rapper, didn't he have something like this happen on a jet ski? And he also did something like this. I thought I saw a story about something like that where he almost died on a jet ski, and he kind of did the same thing. So good for you, Carlos Correa. It's weird we just now are hearing about this later, almost a year later, whatever. And then also wear your life jacket, people. Wear your life jacket. Make sure you have a life jacket on, and make sure your children, which I believe Carlos's did have one on, make sure you wear your life jacket and there are people around that are paying attention to what's happening in the water.
Yeah, so Correa managed to reach the buoy, EK, but slipped off of the buoy. He fell under the water. This is, again, according to the article by Brian McTaggart. He fell under the water and grabbed the chain, injuring his left hand with Kylo's weight on his shoulder. Kylo is his oldest son, by the way. Correa switched to his right hand, then his left and back to his right. Oh, my God, that's terrifying. To stay above the water, he yelled toward the boat for help. It was his last gasp. I can't think of a more horrific death, anything that your child is involved in, obviously, but I can't think of a more horrific death than drowning or perhaps being, burned to death. But imagine the terror in Carlos's mind and his son's mind and whoever was watching. That'll make you rethink some things.
I can't imagine it. I'm glad they're safe. I'm glad it brought them closer to the Lord. I'm glad it put him in a spot where he's appreciating, every day that he has. And, as a veteran on a team, you start making impacts on different people on your team when you're really intentional about everything, intentional about your relationships. So, there's a positive that came out of this, and that's it for him.
Yeah, he also talked about in the article, spoke of the challenges, you guys, he endured as a player, fracturing his ankle in 2 places in the minor leagues in 2014, and how that injury later caused both the Giants and the Mets to back out of mega deals with him 7 years later. He wound up signing with the Twins after leaving the Astros at the end of the 2021 season. Obviously, he is back with the Stros. I imagine he'd finish his career there. I'm just happy that he's okay, and I'm happy that his son is okay. Coming up, we're going to be speaking with Ruben Amaro Jr., co-host of the Phillies show, obviously friend of Foul Territory, talking about the Sanchez extension and much more on the Phils right after this. Guys, this is kind of funny. Seth Hernandez topped 102 on the radar gun during the spring breakout game, and Max Clark's reaction to Seth Hernandez topping out 102 on the radar gun during the spring training game is pretty. If you can read lips, there you have it. This is a Platinum Key tweeted this on X. WTF, EK? That's some heat, my friend.
Right, that's not normal. Normally, people don't just hit 102.
Not in the spring breakout game.
I would love to know the background, because I remember 2 years ago when Paul Skeens pitched in that game. He hit 101, and everybody was freaking out. My thing is, when guys react like that, I like to believe that he got a scouting report when he left the dugout, because they have scouting reports for everything now. Mm-hmm. They said, this guy's 98 to 100 was drafted. I mean, AJ, remember, wasn't he just drafted last year? Wasn't he one of the guys on the same team that had 2 high school kids in the top 20 picks?
He was. Yeah, Corona.
Yes.
Billy Carl. I think Billy Carlson was the other one. But my son got to play against Seth.
Okay.
in a game, in one of those perfect game, All-American, whatever those things are. And he was on deck when he got taken out, and he had struck out, I think, 5 of the 6 guys in front of him, and they took him out, and the guy walked by him and who had just struck out and said, good thing you don't have to face him because ain't nobody got a chance against this kid. So my son was excited that he would have got to face him, but he also wasn't too upset that he didn't get to strike out against him like everyone else did. So, yeah.
I'm sure you guys talked about this, but I wasn't on the show when you did. There was so much grief given to Max Clark about all of his chains. Who cares? I mean, can you bring that GIF back up or the tweet back up, please, when you see what Max Clark is wearing around his neck? Who cares? Who cares?
We talked about it at Tigers camp with I think it was Riley Green. We had Riley Green on, and I asked him straight up. I said, "What do you got on this?" I think it's stupid that we're even talking about this. He lost the ball in the sun, and it was because he has chains on. And Riley Green defended the kid to the end of the interview about how he has his own. Everyone has their own personality, and you got to let kids be kids and play the way they want to play. And if that's how you get confidence to be a great player, then hey, wear your chains, dude.
Amen. 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 Wear your chains, son. We are joined now by our friend, former Phillies general manager and current co-host of the Phillies show, Ruben Amaro Jr. Hello, good to see you. Big week for Andrew Painter. He makes the team and he gets engaged. What did the Phillies see about him that led him to break camp with the big club, Ruben?
Yeah, it's nice to see you guys. And you know what? I probably should be flipping my hat around. How come I don't have the backwards hat look? I missed out on the memo. What am I doing?
Ruben, you also missed out on Philly's show on Thursday. You weren't there. Your 2 cohorts were there, but you weren't there in Clearwater.
You know, I'm sort of on vacation here in Clearwater, my friend. It's golf and it's entertainment, but I am watching some baseball too. And really enjoyed watching Andrew Painter pitch this spring. I mean, he handled himself extremely well. Obviously, he's famous. He's been around for a long time. Everybody's been touting him as one of the best pitching prospects since Paul Skeens. No disrespect to Paul, but this kid, he's got great stuff. He's got the body. He's got the mentality. He's got the maturity, and finally, he's healthy. I know he didn't have a great season last year, but I think it was more about making sure that he was healthy through that TJ that he had a couple years back. So I like the way he threw the ball, particularly in his last outing. Faced a very good lineup and threw strikes. His command seems better. They made a little minor adjustment in his delivery, got him closer and closer to where he was, a few years back before he had the surgery as far as his arm angle is concerned. And he's feeling confident, throwing 3 or 4 quality pitches. And he's going to be pitching in the 5-hole for the Phillies, and I think that's one of the biggest strengths they have.
When I saw him pitch before his Tommy John surgery that he had, I saw tall, athletic, moved down the hill really well, and was able to command. Was that so easy to watch now that he's back, and then tough to watch because of the fact that he had command issues? And were those command issues, those questions asked or answered this spring training about the command issues against good enough competition, like you just said?
Yeah, I was a little concerned about what he went through last year at AAA because he didn't get a lot of swing and miss. He didn't get there was something going on, and I think that the folks here in Philadelphia, Caleb Cotham is the pitching coach, and their overall pitching development is very, very good here. They've seemed to pick apart some things that they saw that might get him back to where he was prior when you saw him and when I saw him the first time getting off the mound. The thing about this kid that I have a lot of confidence in is that not only is he a super mature kid, but for a man this size and of this age, he actually, and you guys know this, the better athlete you have, the better chance you have to be able to repeat your delivery and to get back to the command that you've had at one point. My concern was whether he was going to be healthy enough, but it's clear that he's healthy. The ball's coming out of his hand great. Now it's just a matter of him being able to make the adjustments of being a major leaguer. And, that's a big one. It's a big adjustment. But I do think that he's got the poise, that he's got the confidence. And I also do believe that he has the athleticism, which is an important one for me, to be able to to pitch well, even when he may struggle at times.
Ruben, another one of their starters that just was given a huge extension is Jonathan Sanchez. Now, Jim Bowden, who I completely disagree with, is like, this is a terrible, terrible move for the Phillies. Why are they doing this? I love this for both sides. I love it for Sanchez and I love it for the Phillies because you lock up a guy before a CBA, all the things, whether he's a free agent, and he continues to get better and better and better every single year. Plus, with who knows what's happening with Wheeler. Nola's getting older. Luzardo signs an extension. So you have two guys locked up for many years. Now you have Painter coming. What would you have done this as the GM when you were the GM of the Phillies? And why is there hate about this? I would think Philly, especially Philly fans, should be rejoicing.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you, AJ. And yes, I would have done this. I mean, this guy was under a great contract, but they didn't really tear it up. All they really did was add on a couple of years. There was no question in my mind that they were going to pick up those two option years anyway. And that's what Dave Dombrowski said. Like, why not tack on a couple of more years at a reasonable price? I mean, this is a guy who's an elite starter. Right now, those guys are going for what, $40 million a year? And so they've already got him at a great price. Add on a couple of years. This guy takes care of himself. His transformation might be one of the coolest things I've seen in the history of me watching baseball. This is a guy who came to the big leagues from the Tampa Bay Rays, who was basically he was a thrower. I mean, he was a rock thrower. We call them rock throwers. He had no idea where the ball was going. He could throw 97, 98 miles an hour. Didn't really have a lot of, didn't have any command of a secondary pitch. He now has one of the best changeups in the game. No disrespect to Tarek Skubal. He's one of the best left-handers in the game. No disrespect to Tarek Skubal. And he is now developing a better and better slider that he can use as a little bit more of a put-away pitch. He's a three-pitch pitcher. He's an excellent athlete. He's a great kid, and he continues to strive to be great. I think this is a win-win for both sides, and you don't see that all that often. I guess everybody wants to hate on every move that every team makes. They always have a opinion about it. But in my estimation, great move, and I applaud both Cristopher Sanchez and the Phillies on this. It's a great thing. Hey, the best way to win baseball games, guess what, guys? It's starting pitching. You got to value that. The Phillies value it. They know that's an important part of what is going to make them successful, and they're keeping that window as wide open as they possibly can.
But by the way, I called him Jonathan. Sorry, before everyone kills me. I know it's Christopher. Sorry, Ruben. Sorry, Phillies fans. Sorry, people in the chat. We're talking about 780 million people, plus all the guys who are getting sent down. Sorry if every once in a while I make a mistake, Ruben. I apologize. I should just you on TV and call them by either their first or last name. Ruben. But anyways, so would this mean, so they have Luzardo locked up. They have Sanchez now locked up. They have Nola for a few more years. Does this mean Painter could be next in line for an extension type of thing? If he may, I don't know if they'll do it before the season starts, but let's say he gets off to a nice start.
I mean, it's certainly possible. I would think that they're at least discussing it amongst themselves. Again, the fact that he's had a TJ and how he comes through that. Now it's been a couple years since he had it, and it seems like he's going to be healthy. But why not? Why not? Build that. Build that roster with quality young arms. I do think that the Phillies value the importance of starting pitching, and I think that's something that has been. The value of that has been mitigated over the last few years. And I think people are realizing, hey, if I can cover a little bit more than half the innings with my starters, then I don't have to put the pressure on that bullpen as much. Obviously, there's danger to it and there is risk because guys get hurt. It happens. But I think the Phillies do a really good job of prehabbing, of keeping guys healthy, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if they wouldn't consider Painter as a guy next in line for a long-termer.
As a GM, what is that process like for you? You obviously like the player. You know the player. Is it hey, you know what? Ownership comes to you when you were there, Mr. Montgomery, and now John Middleton comes to Dave Dombrowski and says, hey, we have some money to be able to lock up? Or does Dave Dombrowski say, hey, we'd like to lock him up based on this, like you went to Mr. Montgomery when you were the GM? What's that process like before you even get to the player's actual extension?
Typically, we get together with the boys in the office and we start thinking about, okay, long-term, What is this guy's makeup like? Is this guy going to continue to try to be the best player he can be? Is he a winning player? Is the makeup the kind of guy that we want to put this money into long term? Because, we wanted to develop winning players. And so once we started having those discussions, then we looked at comps, long-term deals, what the marketplace is bearing right now, and then try to set up something that made some sense. And at that point, we'd probably start to go to our to the ownership group, whether it be John Middleton or David Montgomery when I was at the helm, and discuss it and basically give them our memo. Hey, these are our thought. This is the thought process. This is why we think this is the right thing for this player, and why. And it was something that we did with several players while I was as an assistant GM and a GM. Chase Utley obviously did it with Howard. We did it with a bunch of guys, and we thought it was important to be able to lock up our homegrown players that we knew were winning type players. But the makeup was a really, really important part of this, because you don't sign Cole Hamels if you don't think that Cole Hamels is who he is. And so those were some of the things that we thought were extremely important. Obviously, the health and all that stuff is part of it, and the risk is there. But you certainly don't you feel more comfortable about a guy who wants to win and to be great. And I think that's an important element here.
Ruben, I remember when Carl Crawford got traded from the Red Sox to the Los Angeles Dodgers, Justin was running around the clubhouse at like a 7, 8, 9-year-old kid. Now here we are with the excitement of Justin Crawford making the team. Why should we be excited about this young man that literally grew up before our eyes?
I think there's a couple of reasons. One, the pedigree. There's no question, Alanna. This guy, his dad was a really, really good player in the major leagues for a long time. But not just that. This is a great kid. This kid respects the game. He plays hard. He's got talent. He is a game changer with his legs. I had a concern about whether or not he could be an everyday center fielder. But he did work in the offseason with Eric Davis, who knows baseball and knows the outfield quite well. And the guys here, Paco Figueroa, excellent outfield coach as well. He looks terrific in the outfield. You know how difficult it is in spring training, either in Arizona with that high sky or here in Florida where the sun and the wind will affect the baseball. He's handled himself extremely well. I love his angles. I like the way he throws the ball. He's got a very good arm. He's not one of those speedsters that can't throw. I think his instinct for the game has been very good. I had some concern about whether, because they didn't bring him up last year and they had sort of had a need, but he got hurt during that time in July and so never got to the big leagues. My concern was whether he's going to be able to handle being a championship caliber outfielder. Right now, he's showing he can do that. As far as his offense is concerned, I wouldn't mess with him at all. There's a lot of people who are talking about, making sure that he hits the ball on the ground too much. Well, guess what? That's one of the elements that makes him a very distinctive player. He's got enough pop and will continue to develop his quote unquote man strength. But this is a guy that for me is got a chance to be a really good quality overall major league player. And guess what? He's hitting in a 9-hole in this lineup, and they don't really need him to be a 300 hitter and have an OPS of 950. They just need him to play solid defense. They need him to get on base, create a little havoc on the base paths, and I think this kid's got a chance to be a good one.
To that point, I have to ask about the batting order. If you go a left-handed, there was talk about who was going to hit first. Is it going to be Trey, whatever? With that type of speed, do they fear that they're going to put him in a bad spot if there's too many lefties at the top of the order? Then they're just going to bring in a lefty to face him, even though it's, the 9-hitter, you're still getting that bad platoon advantage. Is there talk about possibly shifting maybe somebody that can handle left on left a little bit better and like a Bryson Stott that goes into the 9-hole like that?
I think they're going to stay with him in the 9-hole because I think they have the confidence that he can handle left-handers. He's a guy that stays on the ball. He tries to make contact. He's not a big strikeout guy. He'll strike out just like everybody else. But I think he hangs in there pretty well. Obviously, you got a chance to go, and the 9-hole, you'll probably go with him. They're going to lead off with Trey anyway. So it's going to be Trey, and probably I think they have the lineup out here today. That's going to be the opening day lineup where it's going to be Schwarber and then Harper and then Alec Bohm, and then they're going to go left, right, all the way down the line against a right-hander. So I think that they'll be fine with him in the 9-hole. Trey will probably hit in the 1-hole. Imagine those two guys on the base path at the same time. You got Crawford, who can really run. Trey Turner, obviously one of the fastest guys in the game. That could give them, the Phillies, a little bit different element. They run the bases okay, and they do steal some bases, but this will give this team a little bit more of an element, not just power.
Well, then I'm going to take a Charlie Manuel quote. Well, Schwarber can drive him in from the parking lot. I don't want him to steal bases. So there's a little bit of that you got to be able to make sure that you're not out so that Schwarber can drive you in. My last question on the Phillies lineup. Everybody's going to say, oh, they just ran it back. Is this still a good lineup?
It's still a good quality lineup. I mean, they were fifth in all of baseball in most categories. I think this is a team that with an overall development of two very, very important guys. One is Bryson Stott. You mentioned him early. The other is Brandon Marsh. Those guys in the second half of the season had excellent numbers. Look them up. You had Bryson Stott with from the last half of the season on, made a hand adjustment in his swing. He's more direct to the baseball. He had like an 850 OPS from the second half on. Same thing with Brandon Marsh. He started to gain some confidence in his stuff. I do believe that they'll protect him by not having him face a ton of left-handers, but he's a guy that I think is also developing. If they both swing the bat closer to what they did in the second half next year, this team's got a chance to be a top 2 or 3 lineup in all the game.
Ruben, Philadelphia is a wonderful place. It is also a place with high expectations. If there is any sort of pressure on Rob Thompson, what is it?
Well, I mean, obviously to win, and there's no question about it. These guys are built to win, and they want to win. But Rob Thompson, he understands it. I mean, he's been in New York. He's been in Philadelphia. He understands the big markets. But he's going to be the same guy. I think he's continuing to learn. I think the addition of Don Mattingly in that dugout is an outstanding addition. I don't think he cares about it. I think that phases him. And people think that, well, they hired Don Mattingly in case, they have to fire Rob Thompson. They get off to a slow start. I don't think Rob Thompson gives 2 craps about it, to be honest with you. I think he cares about being a good manager, being able to manage his team to the best of his ability, and got a lot of respect for him. If there's a lot of pressure there in Philadelphia, there's no question about it. But hey, you'd rather have pressure and rather have a good team and the expectation of being a good team, and I think Rob welcomes that.
We had Donnie Baseball on just the other day when we were at Clearwater Camp, and just hit a little bit for me on what he brings to that staff that they were lacking in the last few years.
I think it's just credibility, man. I mean, listen, they have a really great coaching staff. I mentioned Caleb Cotham, Dusty Wathan at third base, Paco Figueroa on the base paths at first base and the outfield. I think that they have a very, very strong staff. What they did not have is someone who had been there and done it at the major league level. So not a lot of those guys on that staff were major leaguers and were established major leaguers as players. Donnie's done it all. He's managed. He is a Hall of Fame type player. He has a great demeanor. I loved watching him manage the Miami Ball Club. When he was with the Florida Marlins, they played the game right. And I used to talk to him a lot when I was either broadcasting or in the front office or what have you. It was great to watch him work because his players played, and they respected him and respected the game. And anytime you can add a Hall of Fame person and a Hall of Fame player to your staff, that's just going to make you all that much better. And hopefully, it makes Rob Thompson even better. And I'm sure he welcomes that. He's had a great relationship with him over the years, from New York to now. And I think it's just a terrific addition to this ball club.
Do you have an opening day tradition? Like you go and get like some type of barbecue in the stands, or now there's Manco pizza. You get some Manco. Do you have a opening day tradition, or are you going to be across the street with Ben Davis or Barkan or one of those guys?
I'm across the street with the boys, Ricky Bowe, Ben Davis, Michael Barkan. We'll do it in quadraphonic sound. I pretty much wear the same dark blue suit with a red tie and my little P pin, a pledge pin. Remember that, guys? Anyway, that's the one that I use pretty much every single opening day, having been with the Phillies for so many years.
Pledge pin. Remember that. Long time ago. Ruben Amaro Jr., of course, you can check him out. We appreciate you very much. We'll see you soon, my friend. Have a good season. Best of health to your Phils. Don't forget, guys, subscribe to The Philly Show on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast, to the entire Foul Territory Network. More FT in just a moment.
This is it, Kratz. Opening weekend of the season. And if you're looking for tickets for an MLB game and they're either sold out or you're just a little bit lost and you need some help, SeatGeek is there for you. It's not just a spot where you buy the tickets. It's where you feel good about buying the tickets because they have your back with their features.
And you know you're going to get a good price. That's the deal that everybody's looking for. But especially early in the season up here in the Northeast, you kind of want to go to a day game where you're still going to be in the sun. It might shift during the summer, but hey, you know what? SeatGeek will let you know exactly where you're sitting and if it's a good spot to watch the game.
That's right. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. So look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. And of course, we have a code for you. You can use code Territory10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code Territory10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later.
When they told me, I called my dad or called my parents, and that was one of the most proudest moments of my life, was being able to tell them that not only my hard work paid off, but their hard work. Obviously, I wouldn't have been able to do things that I did without their help. So being able to tell them and all my family that I made it, and then just the energy that you feel after that. It was funny because in spring training, my velocity was never really that high. And then first time in an in-season game, my velocity jumps up 2 miles an hour automatically without even trying to throw hard. So it's an amazing feeling, and it's one that you never forget. And so yeah, it really, whenever I hear or see the stories of young guys getting told that they're going to either be in the big leagues or make the big league roster out of camp, I get a little bit emotional because it takes me back to being there. You just remember that little kid inside you that wanted to do this your whole life, and then you actually get to experience that dream. It's like no other, man. It's a really cool feeling, and for the guys that are just making it for the first year, it warms my heart for sure.
All right, it is time now for our BetMGM segment, and we are responsible, guys, for picking the American League division winners. You can take a look at the BetMGM futures. AL East division winner, Yankees at plus 180, going all the way down to the Rays at plus 2,500. So let's start there with the East division winner. Erik, what say you?
I said there's just not enough value here. Unless you go with the Orioles, which I don't think they have enough to win the division. I think they could be a playoff team.
Okay.
Just not enough value. I don't think the Red Sox have enough offense for me. I guess at plus 300. If they were giving me the Red Sox at plus 400, I would definitely take it. But I still think it's the Red Sox. I think it's the Blue Jays or Yankees division here.
AJ, should the Blue Jays be ahead of the Yanks with what we talked about at the top of the show?
Blue Jays did win the division last year. Now the Yankees are getting back Garrett Cole at some point. They're going to get Rodon back at some point. I mean, but also let's not forget, they're trying to entice people to they don't want to put the Yankees too high because then if the Yankees do win the division, they lose money. So let's also not forget how this works. But I think that, yes, the Blue Jays should be ahead of them, but they're not, and that's fine. That's fine. But I kind of agree with Erik. There's not a ton of value on this list. The Blue Jays would be, for me, the one because they did win the division last year. The Red Sox aren't high enough. The Orioles, maybe, but I still don't know that the Orioles are better than the third best team in this division when all is said and done, just because I still worry about their pitching a little bit. So, I mean, if I had to take one, I would take the Blue Jays and throw 100 to win 260. That's still a nice little payday.
Okay. Yankees, Blue Jays, Red Sox, Orioles, Rays in that order. AL Central Division winner. Tigers, I guess no real surprise here, guys, at plus 110. The Royals at plus 225, going all the way down to AJ's White Sox at plus 3,000. That seems high for the White Sox. What say you, EK?
I'm going to go Royals here.
Okay.
And I'm not saying I'm locking it in that the Royals are going to win it, but I think it's close enough to say they would win it at plus 225. Yes, the Guardians came out of nowhere because of a Tigers collapse. To me, I think the Tigers, if you're making me choose a team, I'm taking the Tigers. But again, when I look at some of these numbers, I gotta find the value. And I think I looked it up. The Royals were paying out at plus 100, so straight even money to make the playoffs. So I'll take that. I think it's going to be the Tigers and Royals all year. I think both teams improved. I think the Tigers didn't, are they going to make the adjustment that they didn't make in the second half offensively? Because it was a good offense in the first half, probably after even a little past the first half, it was a good offense, but they collapsed. Are they going to take that collapse, or their new pitching rotation additions and Valdez and Verlander going to help them? I think so, but the value is definitely there for me to put something on the Royals.
AJ Pierzynski, what if the Chicago White Sox shock the world?
I just did Barstool Chicago podcasting, and they were talking about that, and it would be a shock, that's for sure, especially in this division. But the Guardians, to me, are the team that they won the division last year, didn't they? I'm pretty sure the Guardians won the division.
After the collapse by the Tigers.
And by the way, how are the White Sox so far behind the Twins? What did the Twins do this offseason? And they traded away like 40% of their team last year. And the White Sox are behind the Twins in this? That's what's funny to me. Other than that, yeah, I mean, I guess the Royals would be the one. The Tigers are the favorites, clearly. But why not? The Guardians always seem to find a way, and Stephen Vogt's going for the three-peat as manager of the year.
If the White Sox, Alanna, do win this division, the money that AJ is going to get after putting 100 down and winning 3,000 is going to be the least of our issues. One, he's still not going to pay for meals. Yeah. Two, we're going to have an entire year of hearing, look at the White Sox. I knew it this whole time. And then AJ is going to be going to Chicago, showing his face, all that stuff.
Mean, if you want a World Series donning that uniform, you get that right. You get the right to be insufferable when your team in which you helped win a World Series.
Even if the team doesn't want him back, just the fans?
Oh, they want him back. They want him back. They're not vocal about it, but they do. Who doesn't want this? Look at this guy. Look, who doesn't want this guy back? That's ridiculous.
As Susan Schlusser said, prickly.
Prickly. That's all right. Prickly. I think you need to be prickly.
19 years says I wasn't that prickly.
See? All right. And
no, that's your 2,000 hits say you keep it around for 19 years.
Last division in the American League, the West. Marineros, minus 105, Astros plus 275, all the way down to the Angels plus 4,000. So even worse odds than the White Sox. You like this? Not like this? Erik?
Yeah, this one's good.
This one's fine?
This one's good. The Mariners should be heavy favorites in this division. And I would almost put the Rangers. Rangers are the one to me for the money that have a better shot. I would put the Rangers above the Astros just because, again, after Hunter Brown and the Astros rotation, who you got? That's the biggest thing for me. And Altuve was on the bust column. Jeremy Pena's hurt, right? What is Alvarez going to give him? Carlos Correa coming off his thing. This all that we just learned about. I would almost want to put the Rangers with DeGrom, Evaldi, Mackenzie Gore to start out the season, start out a rotation. And Skip Schumacher has been known to take teams with lesser talent and lesser things and make them pretty good. See the Marlins before they let him go for only God knows why. But yeah, for me, the Rangers are the one in this. I mean, I think the Mariners win this division, but if you need to bet on a team in this division, it's the Rangers.
What is more unlikely, Erik, that the Angels win the division or the White Sox win the division?
More unlikely?
More unlikely.
Oh, the Angels. They're in a much better division. I mean, the White Sox, I think both teams just are short. They're short on the season. The Angels, I think, have a more talented team, but they're in a tougher division. To me, I think the best value of any of these three boards that we just had up is exactly what AJ said, the Rangers. It's a team that underperformed last year. It's a team that was still kind of in it at certain points. And do I think they're going to take the Mariners? No. Do I think the Astros have so many question marks in their rotation? Like AJ said, after Hunter Brown, Tatsuya Amai, you got guys coming off of injuries. You have just question marks. It's still a winning team. I think those top three teams are going to be over 500. Can the Rangers do enough? Can the change in bringing Nimmo in and having a little bit more of a younger athletic infield, is that going to help? Well, you lose Marcus Semion's defense. So to me, it's the Mariners division, but I think there's the most value of any of these division winners that we're picking in the Rangers.
All right. Tune in tomorrow. Scott will take you guys through the NL divisions as far as winners of a BetMGM for that. BetMGM is offering players the opportunity to win a share of $2 million in bonus bets if they correctly pick the Cavender twin, Haley or Hannah, that wins the Court of Legends event at The Bank in Las Vegas on April 5th, 2026. How to get this offer in 3 easy steps. Opt in to the Pick a Twin to Win free-to-play game. Select which Cavender twin, Haley or Hannah, you think will win the Court of Legends one-on-one basketball game. If the twin you select wins the game, you will win a share of $2 million in bonus bets. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. We're going to be slapping hands next.
AJ, this episode is brought to you by our friends at Fox One. Fox One is where you can watch AJ Pierzynski. And I get this email every week now, AJ, that says what to watch this week on Fox One. They give you the weekly watch list. And now that is going to be full of Saturday MLB games with a little bit of you, a little bit of Ken Rosenthal, and your friends.
Absolutely. That starts next Saturday, Sky. You can watch all the games on the Fox One app. You can watch college basketball, you can watch college football, they have IndyCar, they have NASCAR, and they have great shows. Fox One is the app that really does have it all.
Start your 7-day free trial today. Offers are subject to change. Go to Fox One for complete terms and conditions. Fox One, streaming now.
And because this is a contract year, I think he's going to put up huge numbers. I mean, we see it almost every time that a player's going to be in a position to be a free agent. Juan Soto, Aaron Judge hitting 62. The list goes on and on. There's something about being a free agent that just makes the focus get better. It makes the effort get cleaner. The urgency goes up. And in Jazz's case, that matters even more because I don't think the Yankees are going to re-sign him. If they were going to re-sign him, they would have done it by now. They don't tend to throw a lot of money at second baseman. And I don't need to hear about 50-50. I don't need to hear about what kind of contract number he wants. I don't want the declarations. Don't talk about it. Be about it. Go play with focus. Stay healthy. Be a difference maker every single day, and the money will take care of itself. I do think there's a huge year sitting here for him. He's just got to go out there and do it. I like the 70% effort thing because he's one of these guys that plays with reckless abandon, and that's too much. That's he throws balls away trying to make plays he shouldn't make. He swings too hard. When he just goes a little bit easier, the game seems to come to him naturally. I think 40-40 is a real possibility. I think 50-50 is a pipe dream. You know, that's something you say because you're competitive and you want to do great things. Shoot for the moon, right? Even if you miss, you'll float for eternity among the vacuum of space.
In case you missed it, a big week for Andrew Painter. He makes the Phillies opening day roster. He gets engaged in the same week. His fiancée, Shelby, said we both got promoted this week. So good for these guys. Very nice week for Andrew Painter and his future bride, Shelby. It's a big week, AJ. What's the biggest week you've had in your life? What's the biggest week?
Biggest week?
Sure.
Having children? I don't
know.
Like
maybe you had a baby in the same week that you got a hole-in-one. I don't know. It's got to be some
kids. Just kids' birth.
That's it.
Kids' birth is but then you have more than one, so then you got to pick a favorite. So
sure.
I'll pick AJ's favorite for him, and then he can pick my favorite.
That's tough, though, for you, because you have 3 to choose from. By the way, congratulations to Jeremy Meyer's Iowa Hawkeyes. They beat AJ Pierzynski's University of Florida Gators in a thriller, AJ, 73-72. What happened?
Iowa made shots when they had to. They played better. That's usually what happens, Alanna, when you lose in these games. The other team launches threes and makes them, and they play better. Congratulations, Iowa.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what that's like. I went to the University of Colorado. We're never in the tournament. All right, guys, have a great night. Scott Braun's back tomorrow. We'll see you later.